And right, welcome everybody to what is now the 25th ukulele warm up since we started back in last spring. And we're going to look at a few things today. We're going to look at tricky chords, and I've got a few examples of chords which you may be able to play perfectly well, but there are maybe easier ways to play them as well, or alternative ways. And also, we've been warming up on the C major scale, that one which goes sort of the do re mi type scale. I'm going to show you how to play that in such a way that you can then move it up the neck and play in other keys. So it's purely for warming up an exercise. It's not something you're likely to do in a performance, but so I'll show you that. The movable major scale, that's what I'm going to call that. We'll do a little bit of thumb and finger picking as well, and we will do some strumming as well. Probably on those tricky chords. I think that's probably the best time to do it. So let's get started then. And as I say, welcome, and hope you get something from the next half hour or so. I'm just going to put onto the screen something you've seen before, and that is the C major scale. So we're not going to do that today. What I'm going to do, just visually picture the shape of fingers there, including the dots on the left, the black and the two white ones. See that shape there? Now that includes the open strings of the ukulele when you're playing that scale. But if you wanted to move that up from C major to the next semitone, which will be C sharp major, you have to move away from the nut and the open strings on the end of the ukulele, and what you get is this. Well, actually I've gone 2 frets up, not 1. I've gone to the next one after C sharp, D. So 2 frets up from C major will be D major. But now, because we're away from the open strings and the nut, we can't rely on that. We have to use our first finger for anything which is on the 2nd fret, which means that you've now got to use your 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers for the remainder. So the fingering is actually quite a bit different from what it was for the C major scale. If I get that off the screen, it won't confuse things. And this then becomes the movable major scale shape. As I say, it's really just for warming up your fingers and hearing the sound of a scale. Unless you're playing melodies, you're unlikely to come across this in regular sort of strumming sessions, but you never know. And if you're playing lead ukulele of any description, scales are very useful for that as well. So we're just going to look at this, and we'll come back to it in future weeks. So I just want you to get started on playing this as a kind of a warm-up scale. Now the first note there, where that big arrow is pointing, that's the first finger on the 2nd fret of the C string. If you'd like to put your finger on that note, so that's the 2nd fret of the C string. Because it's the 2nd fret, it's a D, the note D. So open would be C, 1st fret would be C sharp, 2nd fret will be D. And that names the scale. So what follows will be the D major scale. And if you were to move that whole shape up the neck, it becomes D sharp major, E major, F major, and so on. So that's how you get the different major scales. But we're just going to do this first one to start with. I'm just going to put my me on spotlight view just for the recording and maybe for yourself. So so I've got my first finger on there. Those numbers refer to the fingers, your fingers, not the frets, the fingers. Okay, let's just work our way up. So you can pluck with your thumb or a plectrum or your first finger. I don't mind, but just pluck the single string. First finger, 2nd C string. So here we go. That's the D. Up to the 3rd finger on the same string. Should get the same sound as what I'm getting. Onto the next string, the E string, 2nd fret, 1st finger. And then the 2nd finger. And now the little finger with the number 4, the 4th finger. Hopefully you can hear that note. Now on the A string, so on the 2nd fret of the A string with the 1st finger. 2 more to go. So the 3rd finger. on the 4th fret. Sorry, there's a lot of numbers here, but and then finally the little finger. I'm going to send this sheet to you, of course, so you can always come back to it if you don't quite get it all in this part of the set warm-up session. So let's just go back to the beginning then. So back to the root note. We'll do it a little bit quicker now. So I'm just going to call out the strings as we move up. So C string, here we go, 1 and 3. Another 3. Now the E string, 1, 2, 4. A string, 1, 3, and 4. A little bit quicker. Let's give it a little bit of a rhythm now. 1. I'm just going to count the beats now, so just work your way up from the root note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And one more time, just to finish off for today. As I say, we'll come back to it. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And that's called, that scale is called D major, because it starts on the root note of D and it follows the pattern of a major scale in terms of the number of jumps up the before it gets to the octave D. So that last note will also be the note D as well. And as I say, you can move that shape up and down the neck, starting on different notes. You can't start on different strings, not with that particular shape. You do need to stick to that particular one. The D major scale is, like all major scales, it's kind of the basis of all the Western music that we listen to, and which is why in the film or the play, The Sound of Music, Julie Andrews was teaching Do-a dear, can't remember the song now. Do-a dear, anyway, that was the name of the song. Do-a dear, a female dear. She was kind of teaching her kids the major scale, the notes of them, because of its importance. And the musical was called The Sound of Music for that reason, because it is about what music sounds like, and that all comes from the D major scale, well, A major scale, not necessarily the D one. There we go. Right, good. Let's move on, and we're going to look at some these tricky chords now and strum them as well. So it's not just a case of staring at awkward chords. Tricky chords, I've called them. We'll do it 2 at a time, then strum them. So here we go. We're going to look at the just an idea here for the E7 chord. Right. So for the E chord, sorry, not the E7. We're looking at a way of playing E. Now, first of all, let's just play E properly. It's in terms of fret numbers, it's 4, 4, 4, 2. Yep, so straight away that's a little bit tricky. So we're looking at 4 on the G string, 4, 4 and 2. That's one way of playing it officially before I come up with this shortcut. Another way is to put a bar on the 4th fret right the way across, and then put the little finger on the 7th fret. You get this very high, a little ping on the end. Yeah, that's 4, 4, 4, 7. So they're both textbook ways of playing E major. But quite often you're down at the other end of the neck, down by the nut, and you're strumming away, you know, A minors and Ds and Cs and so on, and suddenly you've got to play E, and you've got to move your hand up to one of those 2 positions. which is not particularly easy even for experienced players. So this is a way of playing a proper E major chord without moving from the nut end. And what you do is, you think of it this way. First of all, play E7. So I think you all know E7, don't you? 1, 2, 0, 2. So I'm just starting from the G string on fret numbers here, not fingers. So 1, 2, 0, 2, yeah? You should know that one for E7, it's quite a common chord. If not, a bit of homework for you. Now E7 has got a note in it that we don't want. That's this thing called the 7th. We want to get it back to just being an E. And it happens to be the note that's on the C string. So, with your second finger, which is probably on the C string, if you can just raise it slightly, there's a bit of a knack here, but if you can just raise it so that note doesn't ring, you are left with a complete E chord, the remaining 3 strings. Now, that's not that much. Some may say that's actually harder than playing the proper E, but it's in a fast piece of music, and you just want to strum at that end of the ukulele. This can be a lot easier. Sometimes you can actually get away with just playing E7 instead of E, but only in the key of A, and we're not going into Y at the moment. But okay, so that's my tip for playing an E7. Just raise the finger so it's damped, it doesn't sound. Right, I'm just going to do one more chord. We've got a couple of others as well, but just this one. B7. Now E and B7 often go together. And if anyone's played the Mavericks Dance the Night Away in the correct key, the record key, you will play E followed by B7. So an easy way of playing B7, well, let's look at the official way first of all. It's a bar on the 2nd fret. This is the textbook way of playing a B7. A bar across the 2nd fret and the 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the C string. Yeah, and for some people that's absolutely fine, but that is a bit of an awkward chord sometimes. That's 2, 3, 2, 2 you should have on your frets there. That's B7. So now I'm going to show you a way of playing that without a bar. It's not going to be absolute, it's not textbook, but it won't sound wrong. And that is to do this. Right, here's the thought process. First of all, play a G chord, just a normal G. Just put your fingers on a G chord. Now lift that shape up and just move it across the strings till they're on the G, C and E strings. So you've kept that shape of G, but you've just moved it to the neighbouring set of 3 strings. So you should be now 2, 3, 2, 0. Okay? And that will be a perfectly good sounding B7 chord. There is one note missing, but it's not an especially important one. Well, it's B actually. But you can live without B. If I was to do that in a song which required B7, I'll wager a pint you wouldn't notice the note B was missing. So that's an alternative to B7, is to play the G moved across a string. So if I was to play, so what we're going to do now is we're going to strum those 2 chords. We're going to do E and B7. Like that. And they're the chords to Dancing the Night Away by the Mavericks, for example. So this is just for a little bit of practice and warming up, just to get these 2 chords tucked under your belt a little bit better. Let's have a go, shall we? So we're going to start with a bar of E, and then we're going to move to that G chord shifted across to get the B7. Here we go. After 4. 1, 2, one, sorry, a bar of each. I did say that, didn't I? Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, start with E. Now move to the B7. E. Do that one more time. Let's just do that slowly then. So that might have been a little bit quick if you've just tried this for the first time. So I'm going to do it a bit more slowly this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, E. And now B7, E. One more go. B7. Finish on the E without the 7th in it. Okay, these are just ideas. They're not things you have to do, but you may find one or two of those examples useful. Okay, let's move on. And we've got B7 again. Right, yes, that's interesting. Okay, why is that? Well, we're going to look at another way of playing B7. And this one involves moving the E minor across from its normal position to the same idea actually, a bit like moving G across to the other string set, to move the E minor one across. And you actually get a better B7. And B7 is often used in the key of E minor. It's very common in the key of E, sorry, let's get my keys mixed up here. B7 is very common in the key of E, but it's also very common in the key of E minor. And E minor to B7 is a familiar sound. You'll hear it in songs like Sway, for example, if you're in that particular key. And this time, rather than moving the G across, it would make sense to move the E minor across. So if I was to play an E minor chord, it would sound like that. If I just move the E minor across to the other set of strings, you get a nice B7 sound. And of course, you can use this B7 on the previous example as well. So let's have a go at just strumming E minor to B7 just by moving the shape of E minor across. Yeah, E minor, then B7, back to E minor, to B7, should we just give that a rhythm? So we'll start with E minor and just do a bar of E minor followed by a bar of this version of B7. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now B7. So E minor, now to B7. Last time. Finish on the E minor. Okay, there we go. So we've had two versions of B7. And they normally turn up in E keys, E minor and E. Let's look at E minor itself. E minor itself is not the easiest of chords, certainly not for one of the so-called basic chords. This is what I mentioned the other day, and I'm just going to put it into a bit of context. It's moving from G to E minor. Quite often this happens because G and E minor are in the same key of G, in fact. And songs every now and again will go from G to E minor. And so if you'd like to put your fingers into the shape of a G chord, just a normal G, not just regular bog standard G. And just imagine that your next chord was E minor. Well, you can just play an E minor, but it's quite a lot of movement of hand and fingers. How about just putting the little finger down on the 4th fret of the C string. I'm sorry I called it a pinky, I know that's American, but it's the only way I could fit it into the line. Little finger didn't fit. So put the little finger, see, keep the G in shape, put the little finger down on the 4th fret of the C string, and you'll see you've got a complete E minor there. So, tell you what, before we do what I've shown on the thing there, let's just strum G and E minor. So a bar of G, then a bar of E minor. So really your little finger's just going to go up and down, or down and up actually. So G first, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now E minor, and back to G. Sounds like a song. One more time. Finish on the G. Okay, so that's a way of getting from G to E minor. Doesn't work in reverse, unfortunately, because if you go to an E minor, you're nowhere near a G shape. So it's only when going from G to E minor. Also in the key of G is a what's normally a bar chord, and that's B minor. And I've shown it there as X222. What I want to show you first of all is the official way of playing B minor. We have done this a couple of times before, but just in case you weren't at those sessions. B minor, textbook version, put a bar across the 2nd fret, take your 3rd finger and place it on the 4th fret of the G string. So you end up with 4, 2, 2, 2. Yeah, so bar on the 2nd fret, 3rd finger on the 4th fret. And you should still aim for these textbook versions of the chords. Don't use these shortcuts just as a way of avoiding them. Still aim to get them in the long run, even if it's another year or two. But that's the textbook version. Tricky, especially when bar chords, you have to move your wrist quite a bit from the open chords if you're playing these sort of cowboy chords with the straight wrist, and then suddenly your wrist has to go down and play a bar. Now here's an interesting thing. If you're on a re-entrant ukulele, in other words you've got a high G, re-entrant string, you'll notice that the outer strings, if you pluck them separately, are the same pitch. When it's held down properly. Yeah, same note. Mine's slightly out of tune. Yeah, so I'm plucking the G string with this bar chord and the A string, and I'm getting the same note. So clearly we don't need 2. So I'm going to suggest leaving out the G string note, which is why I put an X on that description there. I put X222. Now, how do you do that? Well, the first finger can now hold down the 222. So put your first finger across those 3 strings. If you just make sure that the tip of the first finger is just touching the G string, yeah, the X means it's dead, doesn't play. Okay, so now you've got just the 3 strings ringing. You've got a slightly easier, I think it's easier, yeah, I'll call it easier, B minor chord, and it's a full B minor. There's only 3 notes in a B minor and they're all in this. You don't need that 4th duplicate. The good thing about this is you can also move it up a fret, as long as you keep touching that G string and making sure it doesn't ring. or just don't hit it when you strum. If you move up a semitone, up a fret, it becomes C minor, then C sharp minor, and up the neck. Anyway, that's another story. Yeah, so B minor. Just the first finger over those 3 frets, 2, 2, 2. And just make sure that the G string doesn't ring, because it'll sound a bit odd if it does. Good, okay, well that's just an alternative to playing the full bar version of B minor. Now, I've just put a little chord sequence down there. G, E minor, A minor, B minor. They're all chords in the key of G, so they're bound to crop up at some point. And so I'm going to get you to now strum that sequence of chords using the technique that goes from G to E minor. For A minor, just use a regular A minor chord. And then for B minor, I want you to try putting down the first finger on the 2nd fret and just making it touch the yeah, thank you whoever said that about the B minor. Good. You're probably seeing that there are other possibilities with this idea. Yeah, so the B minor with the 2, 2, 2, just touching the. Okay, let's have a go at that. So just a bar of each, nice and slowly. The chords are on the screen, so you should see them. G, E minor, A minor, B minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. E minor. Little finger down. A minor. Now that finger across the 2nd fret. And repeat. G. Now E minor. Regular A minor. B minor. Just finish on the, play the B minor and then finish on G. Quite a nice little chord sequence that. Right, might be trying to pack too much in, but might as well just do the last couple. Some more. Here's another one involving a dead string. B flat. I know you all love B flat, don't you? Everyone's favourite chord. Right. All the information in a B flat chord is in the string, is in the G, C, and E strings, where you've got 3, 2, 1. All that last note. Sorry, I should say that the proper way of playing B flat: 3, 2, 1, 1. You've got to hold the first finger down on those on the first fret. So 3, 2, 1, 1 is the textbook B flat. However, it's quite hard holding down the first fret on 2 strings. So by just playing 3, 2, 1 and deadening the A string, yeah, you've got a full B flat chord. And we're not going to strum this one. I just wanted to mention that one. I'll leave it on the sheet anyway. And that can be moved. So you can move that up to 4, 3, 2, and it becomes B. Then C and C sharp. So you've got a movable major chord there. Right. Yeah, F major 7. That's one I mentioned last week. F major 7 doesn't come up that often, but it's quite a tricky chord to play in the open position. You can get away with playing A minor. And right, well, the time is rolling on. It's partly because I closed the session early and had to start all over again. So let's just finish off with, we've done a bit of strumming there. Let's just finish off with a little bit of finger picking. I'm just going to go back to what we did last week. And unfortunately, because time's moving, I don't want to spend too long explaining how this pattern goes, except to say that it's only using your thumb and first finger. T means thumb. And on the G string, 1 is the first finger on the A string, thumb on the C string, 1 on the E string. So we're alternating thumb, finger, thumb, finger, thumb, finger. Let's just do that first of all. That will get us going a bit, won't it? Open strings, no chord. Just go thumb 1, thumb 1 on your fingers. The outer 2, then the inner 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. If anyone needs to go because of the time, then please do, no problem. Thumb 1, 2, so it's good to do that for a minute or two just to get the fingers moving nice and smoothly. One more time. I was getting into a trance there. Stop. Let's just put a chord in place. Let's put a G chord there and do exactly the same picking. So play a G, and now after 4 we're going to go thumb 1, thumb 1, thumb 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. And now let's just do a D7. We'll just finish off today with a G, then a D7. So do the D7 first, just to get that working. So just play any version of D7 you like, 2-0, 2-0, for example. After 4, same picking pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I'm slightly out of tune. One more time. And now we're going to alternate G to D7. So we'll do 2 of those patterns on G, 2 on D7, backwards and forwards. Start with G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now D7. G. D7. Back to G. D7. And finish on a strum of G. There we go. Well, we better stop there because time's moving on, and I did try to squeeze in a lot of those tricky chords. Anyway, there's always future sessions in which to go into more of these in detail. And just to say that we should hopefully have a special guest in 2 weeks' time. And I just need confirmation, but hopefully in 2 weeks' time we will have Sam Brown, who's a ukulele player and very importantly a singer as well, and she's doing an awful lot of ukulele work in the last sort of 10 years or so, but before that was a singer who appeared on Top of the Pops and sang backing vocals for George Harrison and had all sorts of hit singles, but she's been involved in a lot of ukulele groups as well and her own recordings since, and so she'll be a very interesting person to chat to. And thanks very much to Jenny Plum for helping arrange that. Jenny was our go-between, and so hopefully Sam Brown in 2 weeks' time. If not, we'll make sure she comes in a session after that, but we'll definitely got her lined up to come along and chat and do some playing and singing as well. So, right, let's get this on.